I'm Felicity Heffernan and I'm a mortgage broker, and I specialise in working with property investors who want to build a property portfolio of 5 or more houses in less than 10 years. Is that everybody? Cool, lovely. Disclaimer, anything comes out of my mouth you cannot believe, so please don't take it on board. And please do not try this at home without your parents. That's what that says. Okay. Tonight I thought I'd just start off and I'll tell you how I got started and where I sort of went with it all. So back when my babies were babies and not adult children telling me what they know in life and how stupid I am. Sorry, darling. My daughter's here tonight. They were only, Courtney was about 9 months old and Laura was 4. And that's when I started to get into property investment. And in fact, it was Chris, my brother-in-law, who's the cameraman down the back, who had some tickets for an event to go and see. And he couldn't give these tickets away. And he said, Felicity, can you come with me? It's a property investment event. It's by the name of a fellow called Robert Kiyosaki. Now, Robert had not a sidekick, but he brought someone along for the event, a fellow by the name of John Burley. Now, it wasn't so much Robert's stuff that I was interested in, although I really did love the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everyone heard that? Yep. No, it's John Burley. And John Burley talked about little properties, just ordinary everyday little properties that you could actually make cash out of and they wouldn't lose your money. Now for me, that was sort of a very interesting concept because what I knew about property investment back then was that you negative geared. Everyone heard of negative gearing? If you're here for the negative gearing seminar, it's down with the 60th birthday party. So basically, I remember saying to Chris, Chris, I'm so sick of this stuff on negative gearing. You know, we've got a couple of these properties and it hurts, you know. You lose, well back then, you know, $500 a month was a lot. We were bleeding $500 a month. That was horrible. And now I've seen people, you know, bleed $5,000 a month. I mean, that's horrible. So anyway, Chris said, look, can you please come with me? I've talked to everybody I know they don't want to go. And I said, you know what, I will, because at the time, Courtney was only 9 months old, Laura was 4, and I sort of had a bit of cabin fever and I thought, you know what, this will be an exciting weekend. So that's the water. So I went to Sydney and, you know, for a new mum, that's a big deal. And as you know, the ones that came from Sydney, it actually takes us 2 hours to get down there as well, just in case you think it's shorter going home. So it was a big deal to get down there. But I was so impressed when I heard John Burley speak. And look, by the way, Robert was fantastic as well. So the thing that really got me about John Burley was that not only did he talk about how properties can make you money every single month, which straight away my light bulb went off in my head. He talked about the foundational stuff and systems and that to manage your money. And I thought this was fabulous as well. So I got onto that. So I had a fabulous weekend, came home bouncing off the walls, said to my husband, Greg, I have to go to America, I've got to learn more. I want to go, you know, straight away. And Laura will attest to how my husband behaves about things like that. I just didn't pitch it to him right, you know, I just went home. I think I might have been a little off with that. So I said, Greg, you know, I want to do this, you know, and so he said to me, and he looked at me like I had 2 heads and I was stark raving mad, because I was. He said, are you crazy? He said, you want to take $10,000 out of our savings, leave the kids, leave me, go over there for a week, learn about this property thing. And he said, are you nuts? Well, clearly I was. But I wouldn't let it go. So we had lots of very loud arguments over over whether or not I was going to do that. And eventually, because Greg's a smart man, and he's not going to let that money go out of our account unless he gets a payback for it. So he says, well, if that deal's so easy to put together, why don't you put the deal together and make the money? And then if you do that, I'll just take some time off, I'll spend some time with the girls, and you go and learn about your property investment. So I did. So this is what it looked like. That little house there, 6 Jennifer Street, Charlestown, just down the road from here. I bought it for $133,000. Now, the other thing I did too, apart from annoying my husband, I annoyed everybody I worked with. I was incessant about how I was going to put these deals together. And at the time I was working in the bank, and anybody know the culture of working in the bank is that, what do you do Friday afternoon? Drinkies, yeah. So after driving my poor colleagues insane over how I was going to put this particular deal together, one of my colleagues came up to me and said, Felicity, can you tell me more about what this property investment thing you want to do? Because what I wanted to do was actually on-sell the house immediately and give somebody a home ownership opportunity. And that was really appealing to my colleague. Now he just had a divorce, only had the shirt literally on his back, in a new relationship, and he wanted to get back into the property market. He's actually a bank manager. He couldn't qualify for a loan. So he says, I want to find out how you can fund me into a house. So I said to him, all right, Tony, and I drew it actually on a coaster at the Iron Horse Inn at Cardiff. Okay, I remember it clearly. Now, I didn't use these exact figures. This is actually what happened. He went out and bought this. But I pretty much drew something like this on a coaster and told him that at the end of the day, I had to have $10,000 in my pocket. I don't want any more or any less. I just want $10,000. So one of these Fridays, wasn't long after the argument with my husband, well, not the argument, sorry, that's a bit unfair. He put the challenge out there. I was determined that I was going to meet that challenge. So I said to Tony when we were sitting down there at the Iron Horse Inn, look, this is how I want it to work, as long as there's $10,000 in it. Tony says, no problems whatsoever. He said, Rachel and I just need a house, and he said, I want to be able to go and find it and negotiate it, but I'm happy to pay you what you need to get out of it. So, Tony finds a house. I think that was about 142. He gets it down to 133. I sold it to him that same day for 150. Now we had some stamp duty and closing costs and all that sort of stuff, $7,000. Now the difference between 133 and 150 is how much? 17. Who said 17 first? You'll all pay attention now, won't you? Okay, so 17. So I had some costs of 7 I had to take care of. But look at this little figure down here. That's the one that's going to get me over to the States, accommodation, airfares and tuition fee. So how does it actually work on paper? Well, Tony paid me $1,200 a month to me. I then paid the bank $930 a month. There was $270 a month left over. And how was I going to get my $10,000? Well, being a good little bank worker, I could get a credit card for $10,000. Cost me $144 a month to run. I had $270 to look after it, and some extra money for play money. I'm really happy. So from the time that my husband put that challenge out to getting that deal, 6 weeks, I'm off to the States. He's like, ah? And, but it proved that going to the seminar worked. I mean, I could actually go and do it, but I wanted to know how to do multiples of them. So what I learned over there was how to work with investors, because as most of you know, eventually the bank has a point of saying no, and that's a big problem. So you need to joint venture with people. I might add too, because Tony's in the room, I didn't know Tony on that first deal, which was really, really unfortunate. We put together a contract that was very, very poor. It was only after that deal that I'd met Tony, and Tony had then started to put together what we called the instalment contract for us to be able to transact these on multiple bases. And I think I had version 1, and I think Tony's up to version, well, who knows? 15, yeah. So it's come along with the times. Oops. So, same thing, people are going, yes, young ones, houses used to sell for 100,000, that's not deposit. They actually used to sell, and that was back early in the 2000s. Yeah. And there was lots and lots of houses around, and I could sell them for 130,000 all day long. I had some costs and back end profit. Now, all I needed to do was find an investor who could get the loan, and we could get somebody that would pay us that per month. We had this sort of cash flow coming in. It was all positive. 200 there for me and 200 for the investor. So we just split that profit. We also split the losses because, yes, unfortunately you do have to deal with some losses, but we were able to mitigate and keep those contained. And they were the types of houses we bought. Yeah. So I actually did 151.
Sorry, when you say investor, you did a joint venture?
A joint venture, yeah, with somebody else.
And the two of you on-sold to...
That's right, yeah,
okay, gotcha.
yeah. So the investor would come up with the deposit, and they would sign for the loan, and we would have a joint venture agreement which Tony had put together for me, and we would have that agreement in behind the scenes, and we had a bank account, and that's how it all flowed through. This little one here, that was in Tasmania. That was a mistake. It was too far from home, and when things went wrong on the west coast of Tasmania in the middle of winter, it was not a pleasant experience.
But it was cheap.
It was very cheap. I sold it for 60 and made 20,000 eventually on it. Yeah. Sorry?
That's a positive thing.
It was a positive thing when I could get it working right, but it was a very negative thing for a while. And I think Bruce had to sort my accounts out or something, but that was a mistake. All these are in the Hunter Valley. That little one over there is Fennel Bay, but they were all little $100,000 houses back then. So that's my story. Now, in my profession now, people come in and often they say, Felicity, how do I property invest? Or how do I go property investing? Because like that's a 5-second answer back. Anybody that's done a bit of property investing knows that it's not 5 minutes or 5 seconds. But I sat down because I had to write a book and I needed a framework to tell people about how to do with property investing. So we came up with a bit of a nickname for this, the girls and I at work. So we're calling it the Wheel of Wealth. So it's very creative. So there's actually 4 steps. So foundation, acquisition, possession, and accumulation. And taking action, you need that every time you go around the wheel, you've got to take more action again. So I'm just going to briefly go over this tonight because I could keep you here day and night, 7 nights, boot camp style, no sleep, because that's very overrated. And we could cover it, and I don't think we would be done, but we would cover it quite in depth. But under foundation, you need to have personal financial competency. You need to be able to find a niche. Now, a niche means that, are you going to renovate? Are you going to be a landlord? Are you going to vendor finance, which is what I did? Are you going to be a property developer? Are you going to subdivide? So you have to love what you do over here. Then there's the finance preparation. So you do need a good mortgage broker, and I think I know one. In the acquisition stage, you need to be able to market research, you need to analyse numbers, you need to be able to know how to submit offers. And then possession. It's not just taking possession of the house, but when you do take possession, there's all sorts of weird and wonderful things you can do to improve your cash flow. Preparing the property, that's amazing, you know, that the renovators are big in this space. Having good property management. Then in the accumulation stage, this is a biggie. You need to build a great team of people around you. You need to understand how time or lag time works. And investment mindset for growth. Okay, if you have a poor attitude in and around this, you're never going to get anywhere. And the wheel of wealth starts again. So, a great team, and we've got a lot of that great team here tonight. So please feel free to go and see all of us. But accountant, lawyer, conveyancers, mortgage brokers, financial planners, bookkeepers, insurance brokers. That one's an interesting one. I hated always paying an insurance broker fee until the insurance company said no to me one day for a claim on a trashed house. Insurance broker was well worth the money, and I never whinge about it anymore. Real estate agent, mentor and business coach. Key components to investing. I'm going to give the top one. Most people think tips and strategies is that's all you need for property investing. But it's only 5%. Anybody got any idea about what the next 15% might be?
Research.
Research is no.
Finance.
You're close.
Investments.
Money management skills. Oh, sorry. Anyone got any idea what the 80% is that you need? What do you need as a property investor? You've got to have 80% of
Money.
knowledge, guts and perseverance. Yeah, okay. Guts and perseverance. Who said mindset? Ah, young Connor. Guts and perseverance it is then, Tamar. Psychology and emotions. Okay, so what's possible in the world of lending? Well, those of you that have home loans, you can save thousands. My big message to you there is, please always get your home loan reviewed. You should always touch base with your lender or your mortgage broker, sort of every sort of 2 to 3 years. Now, if you've still got a home loan and it hasn't been reviewed for at least 2 years, you'll find yourself on the bank's loyalty rate, which is the standard variable rate. And I'm joking when I say loyalty rate. Okay, that loyalty rate is this one over here, Commonwealth Bank, 5.35. So if you haven't reviewed that home loan, you're paying way too much, because you can be getting 3.79 on an owner-occupied home now. You pay a little bit more for investment. Opening up equity to buy more property. That means your properties can have babies. They truly can. They truly can. Yeah. So when you go to the bank, if you're not sort of working with a broker that knows what they're doing here, you need to open up a separate loan account to your home loan. And that's because you need to make Bruce's job easy when he's doing your tax, otherwise he can't get the maximum amount of tax return for you. Line of credit is a very effective way of doing it. If the bank says, I will just top up your $300,000 loan to $400,000 so you've got $100,000 to go and buy a property, say no, because that then becomes home loan. It's not separated. Accountants and anybody looking after your figures can't differentiate between what's investment, so therefore you cannot claim the interest. So REDOR does not work when you're opening up equity. This is what we recently achieved for one of our clients. We were able to open up $170,000 worth of equity. And what that bought for them was 3 properties, about $400,000 each. That was, deposit, stamp duty. The only limiting factor there was their ability to service, but that improved because each investment property had rent that we can include in servicing. This one here, how can you borrow 100% of the purchase price? This is very cool. And an advanced strategy. Again, children, don't try this one at home without your parents. Tony's called this strategy Some Now, Some Later, which I think is a good name because it just means that if you get the sum now, that's a loan from the bank, and you're going to pay back some of it later, which is, I'll just run through that there. In my world, it's known as a second mortgage or a second mortgage carryback. It's also known as deposit finance, if you see that term floating around. So it's got lots of names. So no deposit, no worries. The bank will lend you 80%. The vendor agrees that you pay them back the 20% over time. So that's the sum later. Now, you have to go and ask a lot of vendors because you will get told no. But I think if you speak to young Connor, he can tell you how easy he found one. It's kind of cool. But only some lenders will work with it, and the finance can be a little expensive. So that's it for me. I've got a book coming out. I'm hoping late July, but it's probably more like August or September. To be released in the spring. Look at the colours. Okay. Now you'll all have a brochure there on your chair that has, if you open it up, it actually has a contact sheet for me. Please fill that out if you would like me to contact you and have a free consultation. And I just want to say thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.